Ladies and gentlemen, another season of the Thrill Esports event is here. It's round one, and we're here in Portimao. I'm Cockcast. I'm joined tonight by Max Ring. Good evening, Max. How excited are we for this evening's action?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Cockcast. It's been a pleasure to join you in the commentary box this evening, and yeah, excitement is very high. First round of a new season. We're going to be around the magnificent Portimao in Portugal, and it's going to be an eventful one. I'm expecting a lot of maybe frantic laps to come in this qualifying and the race sessions here this evening, and I reckon there are going to be some hard-fought battles. Of course, it's everyone's on a clean slate, everyone's equal on points, so this is where you need to make your impact and try get as many points as you possibly can in this opening round to set the tone for the rest of the season. So we should be starting off this season with a bang, I would say, Cockcast.
And the track that we're starting off with, it's a pretty banger one. It's one that has the ability to be a real thriller. It's the Portimao circuit around in Portugal, and well, there's lots of undulation. There's just so much going on. It's hard to all keep a track of, but we will be doing our best to keep a track around the 15 corners of the Algarve International Circuit this evening. We are just loading into qualifying, and after that, it'll obviously be the race session. And I'm sure with how tricky the Portimao circuit is to traverse, there'll be plenty of action, won't there?
Yeah, there certainly will. I mean, this circuit, you have plenty of overtaking opportunities into the likes of turn 1, even into the likes of turn 10. That's also an overtaking opportunity, heading up the hill, and it's a late apex, quite blind as well, to get that move done through there. Then into turn 12, and then also into turn 4 as well. So plenty of chances for these drivers to get their moves done, and it's quite a wide circuit as well, so you can stay side by side for a majority of this racetrack. The qualifying session at the moment is currently raining. The drivers are on the intermediates, but the track isn't really too damp. You can only see the rain falling on certain parts of the circuit, as Lucas Shea is going to be the first driver to be setting a competitive lap time. But this circuit, plenty of overtaking opportunities. Of course, in the main race, if it's dry, we'll have DRS down the main straight and the back straight as Lucas Shea sets the bench for 25.8, instantly beaten by Lewis Walker with a 24.6. That's roughly where we're going to be aiming for at the start of this session. I say that, Dennis Langrock blows that out the water with a 4/10 improvement.
Yeah, that's a lap to really state your intentions, especially with your teammate a second and a half down on your time. Both the ET8 drivers have now set a time as well to compete with the TTMs. It's a 1:24.6 and a 1:24.7 put in by Marcel Pabst and Bogdan Moldovan. Floris Vyers, he finds himself in 5th place. Just having a look now to see who's coming around. It's Marvin Gome around the final corner. He'll be the next driver to possibly set a time. As he comes up to the line, he is indeed setting a time. What is it going to be? He's not, because he is clearly invalidated on that previous lap. I was told about how to get rid of the spectators menu. I won't be using that tonight because, well, it's just getting used to. So just having a look now. Some of the drivers. Tamas Kokani, next up to the line. 1:24.10112. Welcome to Season 3 of the Thrill Esports Series, Tamas Kokani. And welcome to Series 3 of the Thrill Esports event, Tomasz Enge, Sim Racing. His teammate's down in 8th, but I digress. That is a quality lap to start off with.
Yeah, it certainly is. Brilliantly done there from Kokeni. Matthew Bassett now heading up to the line. What can he do? He goes up into 5th place. Of course, this being Q1, the bottom 3, should I say, will go out 16th, 17th, and 18th. Of course, at the minute, Robert in the Kick Sauber for IRT does have a quali ban. That is for a late lineup change with him coming in, so it'll be the slowest 2 in this session will be eliminated. I think we should have a driver a little bit later on joining the fray because, of course, I think they were going to be a little bit late to joining the lobby as we speak anyway. So who is going to be next on a lap? I think it could be Redmere in the Kick Sauber. And I think my game's just crashed.
That's fine. I'll take you through Redmere, who's halfway through the lap already on this beautiful Portimao circuit. Around heading up to the Sector 2 split time. What sort of time is Redmere going to be able to set? It's going to be a 57.3. That's all right. That's not too bad. But now he's got to traverse the final sector. The undulation is horrible here because there's quite a few blind crests. And here's another one. Just running down to it goes Redmere. And around the final corner, he comes now. What sort of time is he going to set? He doesn't want to be the slowest because that will be an awful start to the season for IRT if Robert Dinilescu already has a quali ban. And Redmere, where's he going to go? He's going to slot himself in the mid-pack. 9th place is where he is going to find himself. Having a look now at Lewis Jones, who slots himself in 2nd place. Just as I was about to switch on to him, Herman Polyakov, he is in the 1st sector. Marcel Pabst, he's the first driver to set a 2nd lap time, and what a lap time it is. Pole position currently for the ET8 driver. Herman Polyakov now coming around the final corner. He's going to set his challenges. Teammates currently in 3rd place. Can he match it? Can he improve on it? That's where the NLR driver is going to be looking. Both drivers will be wanting to be up there right at the top. And Herman Polyakov, well, he tops the lot. 1st place is the NLR driver. He's a 10th and a half above Marcel Pabst. He's 3/10 ahead of Tamas Kukeni. So that is, that's an incredible lap time considering this point. Well, considering this point in the session, just under 10 minutes on the clock now. And, it's definitely a statement. Lucas Beisner, he's coming through the 2nd sector. He will be, I believe, the next... Nope, I was going to say he's the next driver to set the time. That will be Justin Chevalier, who improves by 1.5 tenths, and he's up into 4th position. Bogdan Moldovan comes up to the line. What sort of time is he going to set? 1:23.3. It's drying here in Portimao, and the lap times are certainly indicative of that.
Yeah, they certainly are. My game did not crash in the end. It was just a massive screen free. So all lucky on that count as Matthew Bassett now puts his Mercedes up into 2nd place. But the rain has stopped here in Portugal, and the track is certainly going to keep improving. It might still be a little bit too greasy for those soft compounded tyres, but expect at the end of the session everybody to be on a set of the red-walled compound of tyres. So that's Lucas Beisner going up into 3rd place, only 0.5 tenth behind Matthew Bassett. Who else is going to be pushing on for a lap behind, and one of them being Dennis Lanrock, who's up by 0.5 second in the 1st sector alone. That just shows how much of an improvement this track has made and how much drier it really has become. So now heading through turn 7 and into turn 8, tricky to pick up the power out of this right-hander. It's off camber, so very easy to light up the rear tyres as you head down the hill into turn 9. Then late on the brakes as you possibly dare as you hit the blind apex. Easy to understeer wide. What's going to be in the middle sector for Langrock? 1.3 seconds. We could see Dennis Langrock drop into the 22. So as the McLaren exits out of turn 12 and into the long right-hander of turn 13, it feels like an age to try and get back on this power, but it's done quite nicely from Dennis Langrock. Now through the final corner, that was Redmere going up to 5th. Dennis Langrock looking to get into those 22s. Is he going to be able to do so? Yes, he does. A 22.520. The McLaren to the top of the times, but the soft tyres on the car of Lewis Walker, this track certainly dry enough for those Red Bull tyres.
It doesn't even look like it. It doesn't even look as though it's been raining, as now you've got some of the drivers coming through the 1st sector now, probably regretting their tyre choice. Alex Santana having problems with his traction, but he's on the intermediate, so yeah, I think it is certainly dry conditions here, and I don't know whether the TF10 driver will even complete his lap as he comes around. DRS has just been enabled. It is definitely dry conditions here, and the race control agrees with us. I will have a look at some of the tyres, see what everyone's gone onto at the moment. We've got quite a few drivers preparing for laps on the softs. None already having started some, although Lewis Jones, Lewis Walker, and Marcel Pabst are now on their outlaps. But Alex Santana, he's still on those intermediates, and he's coming around the final corner. What sort of time is he going to be able to set? His teammate is in 4th place at the moment with 123.451. Alex Santana up to the line, pushing everything that he can, and it's going to be pole position with a 122.398. The lap times are coming down. It's getting much drier. And Floris Vyers, his lap time's coming down as well. He's improved by 2.5 tenths in the first 2 sectors. He takes pole position with a 122.1. But we're going to ride on board now with Lewis Walker as we get our first soft lap of the session.
There we are then. Oh, wow, we go to him and he invalidates instantly at the first corner. Extremely easy just to understeer wide and carry too much maximum speed into that corner. So, Lewis Jones now. Let's see what he can do in the Ferrari. At one point in this session, was up in 3rd place for NLR and has now dropped all the way down to 12th. That's how much the track has improved over the past few minutes or so as he heads through turn 3 and then heading back up the hill through turn 4. A big slide on corner exit there for the Scuderia Ferraris, up by 8 tenths of a second already on this Red Bull tyre. Late on the brakes into turn 4. Try get it stop. He missed the apex ever so slightly. That's going to cost him on the run up through turns 5, 6, and now into 7 and 8. Late on the brakes. Try pick that power up as soon as you hit that apex curb. Another slide for Lewis Jones. He's really struggling with the rear traction at this point in qualifying. We've still got 5 minutes left on the clock, so this isn't the be all or end all for Lewis Jones so far, but he will want a competitive lap time. 2.1 seconds up on his lap now, so he'll be into those 22s, but this final sector he's going to find at least a second and a half and another 2 seconds as he heads through the penultimate corner. Another big slide as he's trying to pick up that power. He really is not getting on well with those rear tyres. It might still be a little bit greasy out there in this session. So for Lewis Jones, as he heads up to the line, keeps it in the middle of the road, it's a 21.108. That is what these drivers are looking at here this evening. This is what they're going to try and beat in this first part of qualifying. But this track is going to keep improving. Marcel Pabst now coming up to the line in his V-Carb for ETA. He beats it by 3 tenths of a second. So this track certainly going to be improving. But for Lewis Jones, he knows there's time in that lap due to how many mistakes he's made on the throttle.
There is lots of time in that lap, and with 4 minutes left in the session, all that time will be eradicated. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being one of the slowest laps of the session, and nobody is safe, regardless of what lap time you've put in, because of the fact that it is just continually getting drier. It's getting significantly it's getting significantly better to run on, and you've got drivers now coming out on, they're all on the soft compound of tyre, and we should see some competition as we head into the latter stages of this session. Redmer is on a push lap, and I think he's going to be the only one on a push lap at the moment. Bogdan Moldovan, Matthew Bassett and Justin Chevalier, they're all on their outlaps. Marcel Pabst and Lewis Jones will be desperately trying to get back round, get into the pits and prepare for their final runs. Redmer 1.2 seconds up in the first sector. That would be an improvement enough for about 5th place at the moment. Lewis Jones, though, going even faster as he's just hot lapping out there. 120.4 is the lap time that he puts in. He was threatened by Marcel Pabst. He was threatened by me saying that he's not safe, and I believe he will be trying to cement his position. He'll have one more lap, I reckon, if he can fit it in to do it. But Redmer coming round now. He's through the 2nd sector. The 3rd sector beckons for the IRT driver, who is the sole flag flyer in this qualifying session. His teammate Robert Dinalescu had a qualifying ban because they had to swap drivers out last minute. But Redmer, he's going to come up to the line now. What sort of time is the Kick Sauber, the IRT driver, going to be able to set? He's going to go back into the pits and he's going to prepare for his final run. So completely proving me wrong, he comes into the pits. And I think Matthew Bassett has just started his next lap, as has Justin Chevalier.
That's quite surprising there by Redmere to come into the pit lane. I would have thought he would have stayed out and finished that one, because he would have had enough time maybe for pole position there. But he stays in the pit lane and stays in 10th place. So for Chevalier, as he's heading through turn 10, nicely done through there, really using the track to his advantage. He's up by 3 3.7 seconds. He's surely going to hit the front of the times here in the first part of qualifying. So the Alpine for ABS heading through the penultimate corner. Just look how long they have to wait to get on that power and get back going as we head down through the final corner. It's flat out through there. You're just focusing on maximizing the run out the corner, not using too much steering angle across the line. An 18.542 from Justin Chevalier. Has Lewis Jones made a critical error at this stage of qualifying? He went for that double hot lap. He went twice in this session, back one after the other, and that is when the track was not at its peak of the session. That was when the track was still somewhat greasy, as Matthew Bassett now hits the front with a 17.612. This track ramping up ever so quickly here in Portugal, and for Lewis Jones and maybe Marcel Paps, if he's not able to get another time on the board, it could have been they've gone too early, and unfortunately they jumped the gun.
Yeah, and I think even Justin Chevalier, you could argue, went too early as Paulo Afonso goes into third position. You could argue that they all went too early if they've already set their laps on this run. It could be too little, too late for all of the drivers now, as we're seeing Marvin Gome cross the line to start his lap. We're seeing, well, all the drivers pretty much coming across the line to start their laps. And if they're not starting it, they're finishing it. Tamas Kokani is going to be one of those ones who is going to finish it. He's coming round at the final corner. And we'll see what sort of time the Thomas Enger Sim Racing driver is going to set. He's been so strong, or he was so strong last time out. He's so strong today. Almost a second up on Matthew Bassett in second place. That is an incredible lap.
Yeah, it certainly is. Kokene flexing his muscles once more, and his teammate Flores Vyers actually invalidated his previous run. He currently sits in 7th place with a 22.1, and that would easily be swallowed up by the amount of cars behind. But who is going to be next on a lap? It looks like it is going to be one of the ABS drivers, I think. No, sorry, it's going to be Lewis Walker in the Williams. For FVR, he's 5.9 seconds up on his laps, and the amount of time you can find in the final part of the lap is around about a second and a half. So up to the line here for Lewis Walker. What is it going to be? It's good enough to go even quicker than Kokeni. This track is improving like a wildfire. It's just spreading so quickly. There's Debacore up into 3rd place. Marvin Golden went 6th. Moldovan up into 2nd place. Basner up to 6th now. The two McLarens now coming up to the line for TTM. Langrock up into 2nd. Lucas Shea needing a big lap in this one, and he does. He delivers to go up to 4th place, and this is putting Lewis Jones and Marcel Paps severely at risk. Here comes Marcel Paps to the line. He improves enough, so all eyes over to Flores Vyers and Redmere to knock out Lewis Jones and Matthew Bassett. There goes Flores, quickest of all with a 15.6. Redmere with all the pressure on his shoulders to get out of this bottom 2. I don't think he did it. I think it's P16 for Redmere, and it is. Both IRT drivers out in Q1, and Matthew Bassett lives another day by the skin of his teeth, gets through to Q2, and wow, that was a dramatic end to the qualifying session. But Lewis Jones did jump the gun too early, and unfortunately, he's the slowest of the drivers that set a time in that session.
It was indeed. It was a huge risk from Lewis Jones, and not one that paid off as we run through the qualifying 1 session. It was Flores Vyers on pole position, 6/10 ahead of Lewis Walker, then Marcel Paps, Herman Polyakov, Dennis Langrock, Bogdan Moldovan, Lucas Shea, Justin Chevalier, Tamas Kokeni, Tristan Derbacourt, Paulo Afonso, Alex Santana, Lucas Beisner, and I'll give you the rest of the grid in a moment once I get it, because we've now loaded in to Q2. We get hang on, just waiting for it. We've got, where did I stop? I stopped at Alex Santana. It's Lucas Beisner, Marvin Gome, and Matthew Bassett, with the 3 eliminations being the 2 IRT drivers of Redmar and Robert Dinalescu, and Lewis Jones as well, who, well, he took that gamble way too early. It did not pay off for him, and he's all the way back now with both the IRT drivers who, well, they've had an awful qualifying session. I say had, it's past tense, because their qualifying sessions are over.
Yeah, and for Robert, I mean, it was over before it even started at that part of qualifying. So, unfortunately there for IRT, Redmere just not delivering when he needed to. Matthew Bassett was really there for the taking, and he just wasn't able to deliver there for IRT, and unfortunately he wasn't able to get through, and that's both of them now eliminated from qualifying. Luckily for the three that have been eliminated, though, it is a circuit where I've said previously it is easy to overtake. There's plenty of opportunities, but still qualifying at the front is so crucial in a team event, and not being able to do that with not only one of your cars but two of them, that is going to be very detrimental, and they might have to try to do alternate strategies with the pair to try make their way through the field. If not, try the same strategy, but that is going to be extremely risky for them. So into Q2 now. The track is the sky is looking ever brighter, with blue skies now peering through the clouds, and everybody starting to come out for their first runs of this part of qualifying. So the first driver that will be round for a lap, I think, is going to be one of the V carbs. Yes, it is. It's going to be Bogdan Moldovan, who is in currently second place on the leaderboard, but it'll be the first driver, so he'll go up to the top of the times. And surprisingly, at the end of that Q1 session, Tamas Kokeni, who we thought set a brilliant lap time when he crossed the line, dropped all the way down to 9th, so it just showed how much that track ramped up in that part, and that end stages of Q1.
Yeah, and you just needed to wait to jump, because it was altogether another huge risk to even go out there in the first place towards the end. It was touch and go a little bit. But you had to be touch and go if you wanted any opportunity of being right up there at the top, and we saw that with the times just coming down with pretty much every single driver who came across the line. The times were improving constantly, the only exception to that being Redmer, who actually got knocked out despite having the best conditions of all coming round to be the last driver to set a time. But yeah, I think a gamble from Lewis Jones that didn't pay off, a gamble from Redmer as well that didn't come off, because he was just trying to wait as late as possible. But what he didn't realise is that there was probably going to be a little bit of traffic in his way, which was the issue that I believe he faced. We're going to watch now off-board as Lewis Walker comes around the final corner. Sorry for the no audio, by the way. I am trying to sort that out. So if you see the game pausing, that is me desperately trying to sort it out with no avail so far. Lewis Walker's going to come up to the line this time. We're expecting good times at the start of this session, and a 1:15, the first of this evening, is certainly a great time to set us off.
Yeah, it's certainly a good time to get us underway here in Q2. Marcel Paps slotting into second place. Tristan Debicor, he sets a 16.4, a little bit further off the pace. There goes Lucas Basner up into second, just behind Lewis Walker. More drivers now flying through to the line. Dennis Lanrock is the next driver to make an attempt as Chevalier goes into 6th place. So what will the McLaren do for TTM? DRS Open. It's good enough for 5th place. Just slots in behind his teammate Lucas Shea. Not much separating the two teammates either. Marvin Golm is in the middle sector. Paul Alfonso is heading through the final corner. And he's Williams. He's actually aborted his previous attempt, so he's going to start to go again in a moment's time. But Matthew Bassett in the Mercedes, who got through into Q2 by the skin of his teeth. It was a very lucky escape from elimination. Let's see what he can do as he's coming around the final corner. Can he at least put himself in a somewhat respectable position after these first runs? And he does. He goes up into 4th place, a 16.223, but still quite a margin behind the top two.
Yeah, and I mean, the top two, just those laps are what we wanted to see. We wanted to see 15s coming out in this Q2 at the very least, as Marvin Gomes almost loses it on the pit entry. That would have been devastating considering he didn't even set himself a lap in that first push. But yeah, the first push runs for most of the grid are done now, the only exceptions being, well, both the TES drivers, the NLR of Herman Polyakov, Marvin Gomes, Bogdan Moldovan, and Paulo Afonso, who's backed out of his second lap after being 2.6 seconds up in just Sector 2. But yeah, those are the sort of times that we were hoping to see tonight, and I'm sure we'll be seeing some of the drivers pushing down. I'm sure in Q3 as well, with the fact that the track will be evolving, because the sessions are one after another. The track will be constantly evolving. I'm sure we'll be seeing everybody in that Q3 session in the 15s. Reminder that Q3 will be consisting of 10 drivers, and those 10 will be shooting it out for pole position. At the moment, it's looking like Lucas Walker is going to be in it. Lucas. Did I say Lucas Walker? I think I meant Lewis Walker. And then Lucas Beisner. He's in it as well. There you go. It's like a ship name. If that's... Well, I've already shipped 2 of the drivers, and we're, 20 minutes into the first race of the season. I'm sure that'll be a consistent theme throughout the season. But for the moment, Lewis Walker, Lucas Beisner looking pretty set. Lewis Walker topped both sessions so far as he came out on top in Q1. He's currently on top in Q2, and he's out on his outlap to try to improve that again. Justin Chevalier is looking to improve his lap, and he's up to the line with a 16.2 that slots him into 5th place. We've got quite a few of them out on track now, starting to try to narrow the times down. Paulo Afonso's gone for another lap. I don't even think he's coming to the pits, but he's 5 seconds down on his time anyway. So we'll see what the FVR driver is able to do. Is he able to match his teammate who's on pole position currently? We'll have to see. It's a long way up to the line from the final braking zone, and he's up to it now with a 16.3. That's in 8th place. It's only 4 tenths off pole position, but it's not really good enough.
No, not really, but also with those 2 extra laps he did on those tyres, that certainly can be a big factor for at least 2 of those temps within this session, because the tyre wear is so huge around a circuit like this. That was Herman Polakov moving himself up into 10th place, and he's Ferrari. Forest Fires now heading up to the line for TES. And look at that, straight to the top of the times of 15.801. He beats Lewis Walker's lap time, and that is now the new benchmark for the rest of the 7 minutes and 50 seconds of this session. Kokeni aborted his lap early on, so he's 1 minute 18. It's not a representative lap time, but alongside these drivers, Marvin Golm, Bogdan Moldovan, and Lewis Walker all going again. Bogdan Moldovan making a real mess of the turn 5 hairpin, and I think he's aborted this one heading up into turn 7. Yes, he has. So unfortunately for the V-Carb, not able to set a competitive time just yet, but Marvin Golm is the next of the competitors on a lap time, and he is looking to leave the club that him and Bogdan Moldovan are in, and that is to set a lap time at this stage of Q2.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not been... Marvin Goma hasn't got many of the laps in so far. I think he was the last driver to join in that Q1 session. And, he's not set a valid one yet in Q2. We'll see where he's able to put his car in, as he's 51.2 through the second sector. So that's quite a decent time. But you've got to be a little bit more than decent if you want to be right up the top, because there's only about 6 or 7 tenths between the entire competitive field at the moment. 7 tenths it is between Floris Valles and Alex Santana. Well, add 3 tenths to that, because Tamas Kokeni has just gone up with 15.5 of the best. Marvin Gomes slots himself into the mid-pack with a 16.1. But Tamas Kokeni going through with an incredible lap. And Lewis Walker, to be fair, following through with a 15.7. So the times are tumbling.
Yeah, they certainly are. That's brilliant from both Kokeni and Walker. Of course, as more cars go around this circuit, the quicker this track will get. So that is going to be crucial for this part of qualifying. Bogdan Moldovan on his second attempt to go to the end, but he is still pushing on in his V-Carb, heading into the middle sector split as he heads through turn 10, gets back on the power very nicely, 1.8 seconds up on that 19.0, but a lot of time to be found in this final part of the lap. Through turn 12 he goes, has to take a multiple attempts to get that car rotated in, very slidey as well on the tracks, and Tristan Debecourt moves himself up into 6th place, but all eyes still remain on Bogdan Moldovan, yet to set a competitive lap time in his V-Carb. Can he get out of that bottom 5? Dennis Langrock up to 4th, instantly displaced by Bogdan Moldovan. Very good lap times from the pair of them to go into 4th and 5th. And for Bogdan, that removes a lot of pressures off his shoulders, especially if he was heading onto that final lap with no time still on the board, because now he can focus up, push that car a little bit more, and not be as hesitant as what he would have been. But that is certainly what he would have wanted, and surely that has a possibility of being safe into the next part of qualifying.
Yeah, unless the bottom ones can shave tenths off. But at the moment, this is looking like they've all set at least a competitive lap time, because they're all within a second of Tamas Kokeni, the current pole sitter, Herman Polyakov. The rear of the grid at the moment, just 9.5 tenths behind. But it's going to be quite concerning for those drivers at the bottom, especially both the ABS drivers, that they haven't been able to set a real competitive lap time with, especially the likes of the drivers with 16.2s and lower. They will be incredibly concerned about their lap times, and I'm sure that the last 4 minutes are going to be incredibly nervy for, as I mentioned, the ABS drivers. Marvin Gomes sitting just above the drop zone at the moment. Herman Poliakov, who's a 10th off Paulo Afonso, just ahead of him. Paulo Afonso himself, who he took 3 laps to really get going in this Q2 session. But I reckon those are the 4 that will be incredibly nervous. And Justin Chevalier, a nervy lap is not what he's going to want at this point, but possibly one that he's going to get. We're going to ride on board with the Alpine driver as he heads through Sector 1 now. Just the first braking zone just through there. Tamas Kokani thinks he's done enough to get through, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is indeed enough. 15.5, 2 tenths ahead of Lewis Walker in second. 5 tenths ahead of, you could argue, 6th place and below. Statistically, 4 tenths ahead of 6th and below, but it's a lot more than that mentally, because of the fact that he's been able to throw that in right in the middle of the session, in the depths of it. Justin Chevalier now, he's going to be looking, if he can improve by 7 tenths, and he will be on provisional pole. I don't think he'll be up there. We'll see what he's able to do on the end of the second sector. It's a 10th that he's improved by. That will throw him right into the mixer in about 8th or 9th place. We'll have to wait and see as he comes around the final corner. Lots of ERS to burn, and I'm sure he's going to do it. As you mentioned earlier, it takes so long to get onto the power, but Chevalier around the final corner. Now it's a long final corner that leads to a long run up to the line, but Chevalier with a 1:16.0, he slots himself into 9th place, and that's probably going to be his last competitive run.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that still puts him dearly at risk. Matthew Bassett going to be next to the drivers that are in that drop zone to be setting a lap time. He was currently in 11th before Justin Chevalier set that lap. He's now down to 12th, with Marvin Gomes now joining him in the drop spot. So here we are then with the Mercedes heading up through turn 4. Nicely done as he gets back on the power. He's up by 2 tenths already in that first sector. Of course, remember, in Q1, he just narrowly missed elimination, and he can do the same here again in the second part of qualifying. On his final lap, he certainly could put himself up into that top 6 if he's able to pull off a real masterclass of a middle and final sector. So, heading up the hill once more into turn 10. Is he going to be able to get the car stopped nicely? Yes, he does. Keep it within track limits. That's all he needs to do. 3 tenths of an improvement now. This will put him into that top 6. That is the window he is looking for. That is the glimmer of hope to keep himself in this session and move Justin Chevalier on to the bubble. Out of the penultimate corner now. It's this long drive heading down through the final corner and back up the hill once again, up the main straight for Matthew Bassett. Can it be good enough to get him through? Yes, it can. Up into 5th place with a 15.920. A very nice lap time there from the Mercedes driver to put himself surely safe through the next part of qualifying. Marvin Gomes heading up to the line as that's pulled Alfonso up into 4th place. A brilliant lap to keep the Williams in play in qualifying. What's Marvin Gomes going to do? Justin Chevalier in the drop zone. Marvin now up to 9th. Just like the other ABS driver of Chevalier, puts himself still at risk of elimination. Chevalier won't be able to go again. You would think he doesn't have enough time left on the clock. Lucas Shea is down on his lap time, but he's going to start again just with enough time left on the clock. Half a minute left in this session. He's got his teammate Dennis Langrock just behind. Herman Poliakov is now heading up to the line. There's Aston Martin, as that's actually Lucas Shea with a big slide into 1, taking too much inside curb, and that's the McLaren session over. And for TTM, they have lost a driver in this second part of qualifying, just like ABS does Chevalier have enough time, and Shea's actually been disqualified for driving the wrong way, so they demote themselves down another place. So, who is next to be coming across the line? I think it might be one of the V-Carbs. And as we're heading through the final quarter, it's Bogdan Moldovan across the line. Then it's the Williams of Lewis Walker. He doesn't improve. Moldovan up into fourth. Tristan Debecourt, he's someone to keep an eye on at this phase of the session. Currently in the bottom five. Is he going to get out of the bottom five? Yes, he can. Up into seventh place. That drops Marvin Golm out of the session. So both ABS drivers out. Lucas Baisner up to the line. He goes up into eighth. Alex Santana, he is in the drop and he can knock Dennis Lanrock out, but the thing is, Dennis can still be on the lap here, but no, Alex Santana into the pit lane, so our bottom five, if Herman Polyakov cannot improve by enough, is confirmed. He's only up by under a tenth of a second, and with the amount of time he needed to find in that final sector, surely it won't be enough, and no, just not enough to get through, as Forest Fires makes it another statement from Thomas Singh. He goes up into the top of the times with 15.425, just showing how quick the two Aston Martins really are. But the drivers eliminated in this second part of qualifying is Marvin Golm and Justin Chevalier for ABS, Alex Santana in 12th, Herman Polyakov in 14th. And unfortunately there for Lucas Shea, the pressure got to him into turn one. He made the mistake, went off the road, and then got disqualified for driving the wrong way.
Yeah, not ideal for the McLaren, not ideal for the TTM team, although they do still have one driver through to Q3. That is going to be Dennis Langrock, but that's the end of the session for the ABS drivers. That's the end of the session for the NLR drivers as well. Confirmation then that Floris Vyers and Tamas Kokani are in the top two for Thomas Enger Sim Racing. Marcel Pabst taking third with Lewis Walker in fourth. Then Pabst's teammate Bogdan Moldovan in fifth, with Walker's teammate Paolo Afonso in sixth. Then it's Langrock by himself, Derbecourt by himself, Lucas Beissner, who now finds himself by himself because his teammate got knocked out, 12th. And then Matthew Bassett in 10th. Marvin Golm, Alex Santana, Justin Chevalier, Herman Polyakov, and Lucas Shea out in that session. And so it tightens up. There's just 10 drivers remaining in this session. And this is a good time where we can start to get some predictions in. So go on, Max. Cast your net out there. Who's going to take this pole position?
I think it's got to be Kokeni. I mean, even though Forest Fires had got the top of Q2, Kokeni still didn't come out for another lap, and the track was still getting quicker. So if you have to put your money on someone, it has to be Tamas Kokeni. He was so fast. Even on the inters, he was quite quick as well when it was originally raining. So he's just got it in the bag, you would think. He's so quick around this circuit. He's able to chuck the car into corners, unlike anybody else in this session. And to be honest, I actually think, I know you only asked me to get pole, but I think we're going to see a Thomas Sim 1-2 on the grid here, because Floris Fires still looking ever so quick. The only real challenger I see to this outside of the two Aston Martins is Lewis Walker.
Well, that's who I was going to go for pole. Call me devil's advocate, call me whatever. Lewis Walker is going, I reckon, to take this pole position. He's going to split the, or he's going to ruin the Thomas Enger runners. And I think he's going to catch them a little bit off guard, because their first real the first real competitive laps that they set were in that Q2 session. Lewis Walker, he was still up there, but I think he's still got more time to find. Obviously, the Thomas Enger drivers, they've also got time to find as Floris Vyers. He did throw that lap in right at the end, but Tamas Kokani, he's got more time in him because he retired halfway through the session. So I think it'll be those three in the top three at least. We'll have to wait and see to see who's going to be up there. We have got, though, we've got 7 other drivers that we can talk about, and both the ET8 drivers make up just one of 3 of the teams remaining in this session. But it's the less strong team, you'd think, out of the 3, because the other ones being Lewis Walker and Paolo Afonso, and then Tamas Kokani and Floris Vyers, who obviously if you've watched any of this so far, you don't need to know why ET8's probably the weakest team left in this session. But we'll watch on board with Bogdan Moldovan as we head through another lap of Portimao. And the ET8 driver, well, he really needs to throw in a time. He's been risking it a little bit, as that's a huge risk, sending it through turn number 3. Big wobble on the exit. I think this lap's only going to be good enough for a banker. We saw most of the drivers get into the 15s last time out. It was actually that getting a 115 wasn't quite enough for some of those right down at the bottom. I think we had 4 1:15.9s, 2 of them going through, 2 of them not. So it was incredibly close to see who made it through to the shootout. We're in the shootout now. And so these laps, these 10 minutes that we've got on the clock are going to be absolutely crucial in terms of where these drivers are going to find themselves. It's so different starting right at the front of the grid than it is starting around 8th, 9th, 10th. And it can completely change the dynamic, especially with a difficult turn 1 like Portugal has. Bogdan Moldovan really struggling with the grip, just taking too much curbing, both in Sector 1 and in Sector 3. And he's going to come around the final corner now. I'm not even expecting this to be in the 15s. We'll have to wait and see, though, and I'm probably going to be proven wrong. Nope, Bogdan Moldovan, he's not happy with the lap either, and he comes into the pits. Paulo Afonso, keeping with his record so far this session, well, he's invalidated on his lap. We're going to see, is there anybody else on a lap? Floris Vyers and Tamas Kukani, they're pushing in the second sector. What can the Aston Martins do?
Yeah, that is the big question on everybody's lips. Of course, Floris Vyers will be now the first driver to be setting that benchmark for pole position in this session. And this is going to be oh so crucial because, of course, the team who gets pole gets a point to their tally. So if you get pole position here this evening, you do lead the championship for a little while until the end of the main Grand Prix. So for Floris Vyers, exiting out of the final corner, what is this going to be? And he's going to be instantly followed by his teammates. So Floris Vyers, he sets the benchmark. All eyes now turn to Kokeni as he heads to the line. Slower than Floris Vyers. A 15.4, a brilliant lap time there from Floris. Maybe took the words that I said a bit more as a bit more of a motivation to try and prove me wrong in this first part of Q3. But he is in front of his teammate by a 10.5 at this stage of Q3. No one else has set a lap time just yet. Lucas Basner just starting a lap. Matthew Bassett as well. So I think the next driver will be Lewis Walker as he's exiting out of turn 11 and up into turn 12. So the Williams driver, a big slide. We have noticed this so far today, just really struggling with some rear traction. Is the Williams as he's exiting out of the penultimate corner. This run oh so important. Can he split the two Aston Martins? Can he beat the two Aston Martins at this stage so far? He comes across the line. Oh, just narrowly short from splitting Kokeni and Vyers, and he still is within the fight. And that is Dennis Lanrock going into 4th place with 15.9. That's a bit disappointing for him to be so far off the pace compared to that top 3. As Matthew Bassett now across the line goes into 4th. He's managed to scrape his way through into Q2 and now into Q3. So if he's able to pull off a top 5 start, that'll be expertly done by the Mercedes driver, and just shows you got to be in it to win it.
Absolutely, and yeah, he was right on that drop zone in Q1. He was right on the drop zone in Q2 as well. So the definition of scraping it through, especially with how close it was in that Q2 session. With, well, I wasn't wrong in saying that there was 4 drivers in the 115s. There was 3 just outside as well, with Alex Santana 16.04, Justin Chevalier 16.06, and Herman Polyakov 16.09. He did quite well to gain all that time in that final sector, but it wasn't quite enough. Tristan Derbacourt, he is going to come up to the line. Could be a dark horse for ZNT, but not in that first run. He sets a 16.0, and that's most of the drivers' first challenges complete. Paulo Afonso invalidated on his first one, and Bogdan Moldovan, well, he's in the middle of his one. And 50.9, not too bad for a second sector, but still lots of traction issues for, well, I think we've seen it more for him than anybody else so far in this Q3 session. Coming around the final corner, though, 50.9 was still a decent first couple of sectors time, and he's going to come around now for the third one, to complete the lap here around Portimao, and he's up to the line. Bogdan Moldovan, what can you do, mate? It's going to be a 7th place finish, 1:15.966, just edging out Dennis Langrock. Paulo Afonso, he begins his second run now. Hopefully his first time, if he can get this right, if the Williams could hook this one up. His teammate is up into 3rd place, and I'm sure he'll be giving him tips as he heads round the lap. Maybe Paulo Afonso just feels like he needs the focus as he comes round now. End of Sector 2, allegedly purple. Don't know how true that is, but then he's invalidated in that sector 3. So he's really struggled with the track limits today.
Yeah, he really has. And that lap time would have been good enough for at least a 0.6. I just checked the race director to compare him and Flores Fires. Actually, no, maybe even a 0.5, sorry, in with the middle and the first sector combined. So he could have been a threat for that top 3. And it is starting to get a little bit gloomy over the circuit once again. So that's going to cool the track ever so slightly. And that could maybe see a few quicker times because, of course, with the track being a bit cooler, means the tyres will stay in a correct temperature window for longer and they won't overheat as quickly. So could we see a few more improvements? So for Flores Fires, he currently is on provisional pole, followed by his teammate Tamas Kokeni, then Lewis Walker third, Marcel Paps fourth, with Matthew Bassett rounding out your top 5. The 4 we're looking out for, though, so far in this session: Pabst, Walker, Kokeni and Vyers. They are the drivers who are within the best opportunities for pole position. So with 3 minutes and 36 seconds on the clock, it is now going to be crunch time. The next lap you do, there's no retries, there's no coming into the pit lane to try and save yourself. It's going to be hard fought all the way to the end, and it's the last gas dash for pole position as Fires, and I think that might be Lewis Walker coming out onto the circuit now, as it is Fires, and I don't know who the Williams. It's actually Paulo Alfonso, who, that's a quick turnaround by the Williams crew there, Cockaz, for Paulo to be the first driver out for the final runs.
Yeah, that is, well, I wasn't fully expecting it. I'm sure that they took something before they traded over, but I mean, it seems to have worked, and the Williams driver will be the first one to set his final run. It's only him and the 2 Thomas Enger drivers out on track right now, Vyers and Kokeni. We know what they can do, and they're going to be trying to do it on their own stage, on their own terms. We've got one of the RBs, Bogdan Moldovan, coming out of the pits now. They're all going to start to trickle out with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. They want to have enough time to get round onto their final laps, and I think Paulo Afonso, he's going to complete his a little bit earlier than everybody else. As there we go, there's one of the ZNT drivers. Sasha Neeb has completed the ZNT lineup. He will be starting from the back of the grid he'll be starting at the back of the grid. He's alongside Tristan Derbacourt in the Haas for today, and we'll wait to see how his last to first challenge goes. But Paulo Afonso around the final corner, he's going to start his final run with the only 2 drivers still in the pits being Lucas Beissner and Dennis Langrock. They are cutting it very close, as I can see Langrock coming out of the pits now, but Beissner still sitting pretty in that Red Bull garage. The furthest back, actually, garage, so it'll take him the longest to get out of the pit lane. That might not matter too much, but with 1 minute and 42 seconds left in this session, he's only just come out of the box, so it's going to be very close for the TF10 driver to see if he's even going to set a time. If he does, though, this will be an incredible gamble, which he has taken, because, well, he's coming out of the box. He's got to warm up those tyres in 1 minute and 23 seconds. It's going to be incredibly tight.
Yeah, it certainly is. That is a big risk from Lucas Beissner to come out so late in the session. And he'll only have around about 8 seconds to get to the line, so he needs to really be foot to the floor in this one. Paulo Alfonso, so far in this session, of 50.8. That is a really good middle sector from the Williams man. He's trying to make a bid for pole position. He's not set a lap time so far in this Q3 session. He's kept it within track limits so far, and that is perfect. Surely, no way he's going to pick up a track limits violation in the final corner. No, he does not. So the run to the line, can he displace Fires? He goes up to 4th. It's a second row start as it stands for Alfonso. Walker has invalidated. Kokeni has actually aborted his previous attempt. He's going to start going now, but Fires, I think, also did the same. So both Thomas Eng sim drivers having another stab at it on this final attempt to qualify. Marcel Paps up by nearly 2 tenths in the first sector. Could we see the man in the V-carb for ETH / pole position away? Beissner has just made it to the line in time. Next driver to the line is going to be the other ET8 driver of Moldovan, but he's invalidated his lap and only has just started his final attempt with mere seconds left on the clock. Bassett not able to get an improvement. He is invalidated, so it is Marcel Paps who's going to be the next driver to be setting a lap time. He's up by 2 tenths exactly. At the moment, this will be good enough for a front row start. Keep your nerve, Marcel, if you want to try snatch pole position away. And what an upset this will be for the ET8 man. Paps now heading through the final corner. Can he do it? Has he got enough in the tank to snatch it away? No, he loses some time in the final sector, but he is on the provisional front row of the grid. Fires can't improve, and Tamas Kokeni up by nearly 4 tenths of a second. Could we see him break into the 1 minute 14s? Kokeni to snatch it away from his teammate. Across the line he goes. No, he loses it all in the final sector. Can't even beat Marcel Paps. Disappointment for Tamas Kokeni. All eyes now to Lucas Baisder coming up to the line, up by 25 thousandths in the middle sector. Can he at least beat Bassett? No, he cannot. He stays 7th fastest. It's all to Bogdan Moldovan, who's not by enough in the middle sector across the line. He does still, though, manage to improve up into 8th place, but it's Flores Fires on pole. But a big shock in this for the front row of the grid. Marcel Paps for ET8 in 2nd place, only just falling short in the final sector, with Kokeni having the ultimate disappointment, not able to keep the nerve. He was up by 3 tenths, lost it all in sector 3.
The difference between my prediction and the actual outcome of this qualifying session is I said Lewis Walker would be the one to catch the 2 Thomas Enger drivers off guard. A driver did catch them off guard, but it was not Lewis Walker. It was Marcel Pabst, who came from pretty much nowhere to come up into that position, because there is no way that you can say that you could have predicted that before the session. Confirmation then of the grid. Flores Fires taking pole position with a 1:15.433, exactly 700ths behind is Marcel Pabst, and just 3 thousandths behind him is Tomasz Kokeni. Then it's a bigger gap back to Lewis Walker and Paulo Afonso, the 2 FVR drivers, 4th and 5th on the grid. Matthew Bassett in 6th, just ahead of Lucas Beisner and Bogdan Moldovan. Then the last row of the top 10 is going to be Dennis Langrock and Tristan Derbacourt, who set laps that weren't quite competitive with that session, but laps that would have been absolutely incredible if you had set it at any other time. That is exactly what we want to see in a Q3 session. That is exactly what we want to see in the Thrill Esports event. It's certainly an event that we've got on our hands here in Portugal tonight.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's going to be a real spectacle here this evening. We will, of course, have a lobby restart to turn collisions and ghosting on. But this is now oh so important. Thomas Eng Sim now take the provisional lead of the championship, that Flores Fires pole position. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this race is now going to play out. Strategy is going to play a big part. Working together as a team is also going to play a big factor in this session, and it's going to be all the way down to the wire. I can tell you that for a fact, especially with the amount of slipstream you can get down that main straight. It's going to be difficult for anybody to break away at the front of the field, so it's all going to be about keeping your nerve on those final few laps to make your way back up through the field and end up victorious. But you know what? We got this time, Cockaz. Shall we run through the calendar?
Yeah, why not? I mean, that's if I can find the graphic at all. I actually can't. But before we do that, we are going to have a look at the calendar. I think I've just replaced you with the calendar, but that's fine. So we've got Portugal, the first round of the season. Then we head to Abu Dhabi for round 2. I'll actually, tell you what, I'll actually just do it this way, which means I don't have to replace you. I can just, if I can find it, which I can't. Hang on, give me a second. Sorry about this. That's why. Okay, no, it's not. Give me a second. I'll cut back to the action on track until I can get this sorted out. But hopefully that'll be soon. Indeed, it will, because I have just sorted it out. Very proud of myself to do that under such pressure. But we're going to move back. And no, we're not. What is going on today with everything? There we go. There's the calendar that I was just mentioning. We had the qualifying round around the Netherlands. Then we are at Portugal for round 1 of this season. Then we're at Abu Dhabi next week. And after that, we head to the Shanghai International Circuit. Then it's Kota, and then it's Qatar. And I'll give it over to you to finish off after the festive break.
Yeah, so we'll have the festive break. That'll be from the 11th all the way to the 11th of December, should I say, to the 8th of January, where we move over to Silverstone, and what a way to end off the season with five amazing tracks. Silverstone, then followed up by Suzuka in Japan for round 7, then Mexico for round 8. Austria will be the penultimate round of the season, and it will end off in Brazil. A short 10-round calendar that leads us all the way to the 5th of February. We'll finish the season in Sao Paulo, and what a way we should do it. And it will surely be a title decider all the way to that final race. And it'll be interesting to see how the teams navigate these first few rounds. Of course, China, Abu Dhabi and Portugal, not really particular driver favourites. But then you get into the likes of Texas, Qatar, Silverstone and the rest of the calendar. It's where we may see some teams make a resurgence. But we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be a very interesting season, to say the least. And it's all going to be determined on how well you start it, especially this evening here in Portugal.
Yeah, because that mentality that you can take into the races is just going to be so important. We can see, well, from our perspective at least, that we think that Thomas Enger are going to, or it appears as though Thomas Enger are going to absolutely fly away with it. I'd like to be proven wrong, but at the moment that just looks as though that's what it appears as the if I can get my words out. It appears as though that's what's going to happen, as I actually have to pick my fan zone for this season, so it might take me a while to get back into the session with possibly the most pointless game feature, even worse than when you had to pick the chairs for last season. But yeah, I mean we've got 10 incredible rounds ahead of us, and I'm sure, as you say, the finale in Brazil will be a title decider, and what a decider it will be. Brazil, as those of you who have watched my commentary before, Brazil is my absolute favourite track to finish a season on. I think every season should start in Australia and finish in Brazil, but that may just be the stubborn early 2000s me speaking when I say that. But I think Portugal's an interesting one to start the season off, because it's one that definitely challenges the drivers.
Yeah, it certainly is a track that challenges the drivers, and it's quite an unusual one as well. Of course, with it being one of the DLC tracks on the game, you don't really see it often. So it's a track where not many of these drivers would have spent a lot of their hours practicing on. They would have just somewhat left it to the side. It's a track you'll do every once in a while, so there's no need to master it really. But when it's now at a stage like this, where it's the first round of the season, drivers who have maybe dedicated some time at the very least to it to learn all the circuits might be a bit stronger than others, and that could have been why we saw such disparity in that Q2 session. And still, it was going to be interesting to see how tyre wear also affects this race, because just due to the nature of this circuit, how some of these corners go, just the nature of how the left-hand tyres take beating circuit. It's going to be interesting to see how well the tyre management, is kept in this race, and also just with the risk of punctures, because it's very easy to do with an early safety car. If you just box that one lap too soon, or if it's just a couple laps too early, you're going to have to try and manage those tyres. And if that unfortunate puncture does come and bite you, which I've seen many times in the past around this circuit, it can be absolutely detrimental and just ruin a whole challenge for a race win.
Yeah, and I mean, it is, as you say, a horrible circuit for punchers because of the fact you're having to keep the minimum speed up. You're having to scrub as much as you can off of the tyres, and it will cost you if you don't do it effectively, and these drivers will have to now manage their tyres. So I don't think we've seen the quickest that these drivers can go, just because it's one of those circuits where you have to do that. You have to sacrifice your qualifying pace for maybe some race pace. So, I mean, let's not count out some of the teams further down from doing exactly that. As well, vice versa, let's not count out some of the teams at the top from doing the opposite, from preparing for qualifying a lot more than they are for the race. And I think that might just be wishful thinking, because then we get a closer race with the FVR drivers, with the Thomas Enger drivers closing in. But yeah, I think it's something that we are going to wait and see, and we're going to see across the course of this evening, across the course of this race, as I can't get in. The lobby is apparently full, and so I'm unable to get in. But that will be, I'm sure that will be resolved in time, and I'm sure I'll be able to get in and bring to you, the viewers, the action. While you're here, by the way, make sure you subscribe, because this is my personal channel. I've got 5 subscribers tonight, which I greatly appreciate, and well, if you want to watch any of my other videos, I'm not going to stop you doing that. Hopefully soon we should have an official Thrill Esports event YouTube or something of the like appear out of the midst, any socials or anything like that. But for the meantime, every one of the streams will be on here, and well, because I can make every week. I'm hoping that Max will be able to make every week. If not, then I'm sure I'll try to find somebody in the world of commentary who would be willing to do this. But yeah, I mean, it's your debut. Speaking of you, it's your debut in the Thrill Esports series, Max. How are you finding it so far?
It's quite fun. I mean, we've had an interesting qualifying session that's really been on the wire, on the limit of just overall driver performance, and it's been fun to watch these drivers just throw their cars and fling them on knives edges around some of these corners, because Portugal, it's such an amazing track to watch watch a hot lap around, and with the likes of Fires, Kokeni, and even Marcel Paps, with the laps they produced in the final part of qualifying, it really was a spectacle to see. And yeah, hopefully the race is just as good and lives up to the expectation that qualifying showed us. But we now know a threat of rain could still be looming large, because of course we had the rain in qualifying. So could we see it in the race as well? That'll be interesting to see if we do, because that would throw everything up in the air. It will change drivers' strategies, drivers' setups, and that would really cause maybe a big change. And as we know, the rain is a great leveler. We could see someone further back down the field, maybe even one of the IRT boys, climb their way up the order and maybe get a good top 5, top 6 finish.
It could cause even more chaos, because this circuit is chaotic enough. I'm just having a look now to see who was actually on top when we were doing those intermediate runs. It looks as though it was Dennis Langrock of TTM who was on top in those inter runs right at the start of the session. Then it was Bogdan Moldovan. So that is a couple of new names right up to the top of the timing sheets. Even Redmer, he was in 6th place on the intermediate runs. We saw what happened for the rest of that session for the IRT driver. It wasn't ideal, but that shows that he's still got pace. And I think, well, obviously, all of these drivers do have pace, but it shows that he's got pace. It shows that he's got the ability to get into it. And I know that it's not the greatest marker because the track was drying, but if they are to be on the intermediate conditions, expect somebody different to go up, because also pretty much everybody will have practiced on those dry conditions. They know that they are maximising their ability, they're maximising their potential around around the circuit when they're racing on the dry. Very few, though, would have done it in the wet, and maybe a couple of them have, and those would be the drivers where they are. Those will be the drivers that come up to the top. I can't join again because the session is full. So sorry for the delay here in the broadcast in the race, but I'm sure we'll be getting underway very, very shortly. I will send us just to an intermission screen just for the time being, but
we will be right back with all of the action.